So, howdy cadets. Today we're going to briefly go over the tools that you're going to use at the Wargaming Lab on Thursday. So one thing to point out is what everything represents. So each of these tokens is going to represent one of your soldiers. And then on this battle mat here, we've got the roles that they're going to be in. So we've got first squad, second squad, third squad, weapon squad, assault, support, and security, and leaders recon. And then casualties over here, but hopefully you won't have to deal with that.
Here is your entire platoon. You have chips marking your squad leaders, TLs, every single member of your team, PL, PSG, RTL, medic, and your machine gunners, as well as your AGs. When placed on the mat, it looks like this.
So first things first, we've got a little practice mission set out for you. So I know there's going to be bad guys up here somewhere. So I'm going to have to take my platoon, I'm going to have to maneuver them along this, and I'm going to have to represent what everybody's doing. So first thing first, to point out the movement. And on this big battle mat, each of these hexes represents about, every 2 hexes is about 200 meters, and that's about as far as you can move per turn. So first things first, I'm going to separate my platoon leader and PSG because you don't want the platoon leader and PSG moving at the same thing. But I'm also going to grab my machine gun squad, my machine gun team tokens over here. And since the machine guns are constantly going to be moving with the PL and the PSG, I'm going to stack them to represent that. So this means, so when they're stacked, it means that those 2 elements are moving in sync. But, so we've got the big map here, but we've also got the rest of the platoon to represent. So I'm going to grab the squad leaders from their squads. So I've got the third squad leader, the second squad leader, and the first squad leader. And I'm going to organize the platoon into an order of march, like so. And so on this big map, you can only have 1 squad in 1 hex, or 1 squad and then 1 leadership element. So that'll be either the PL or the PSG. So I'm going to call up to hire. I'm going to ask the OC, I'm going to talk to my OC, and I'm going to say, hire, this is lower, stepping off on mission. And the OC is going to say, sure. And then we're going to step off. So as I said, 2 squares you can move in a turn. So I'm going to move the first squad 2 squares. I'm going to move the PL and the third squad 2 squares. I'm going to move the second squad and the PSG 2 squares. At this time, I've finished my move, so I'm going to ask my OC if I've noticed anything. And the OC will then tell me if I've encountered an enemy, if I've encountered a wild bear, if there's some civilians having a great time on a battle hike. Doesn't matter. Whatever they say is what's going to happen. So the OC for this is going to say that there's no change. So then I'm going to move to where I want my ORP, so it's only 1 square. They're going to move up, and then we're going to move into our ORP. So everybody's going to remember how you're going to do that. So if you're going to occupy it by force, do it hastily, do it by the book, anyway. So we're going to stack everybody up to represent them moving to the ORP. And then once they are all stacked up, we will say we are in our ORP and we're getting ready to step off. So, and that's that. So we have now moved over to the smaller scale map. So this map you will move to if you've reached the mission area or your OC has decided that it's time. But one thing to point out that you may have immediately noticed is that the hexes here are considerably smaller. So that's representative of the change in scale. However, the 1,000 meters that are here that are represented by this is the same 1,000 meters of terrain that's represented on the big map. This is just to give you a little bit more granularity in how you can control your element. So as part of that, instead of moving 2 squares over on the big map over there, we're going to move 1, 2, 3, 4 squares. That's how many squares you can move an element in a turn. So another thing to point out, on this map, you can actually see the terrain a little bit better. So I placed my ORP into this draw here. And so when I'm moving over here to where the bad guys are, I need to consider that as I'm moving. So moving up and over the ridge here, or up and over the spur, that may not be the best decision because I'm going to silhouette myself up here. And I need to consider that, especially because although my soldiers are little poker chips, if they were real life and I had told them to hump straight over that, they may not like me very much. So over here on this map, since we've got a little bit more granularity, instead of the squad level, so instead of the squad leaders representing their entire squads, the squad leaders will represent themselves, and we're going to switch down to the team leaders. So now the team leaders are going to be the units which you move around. So if I've just grabbed some team leaders here. So while the squad leaders I can move around, so if I say these people are moving with them, I can then leave the team leaders to represent their teams in a position. So let's say I was taking certain teams on Leaders Recon, I would then move their teams into the Leaders Recon slot. Let's say third squad is all on Leaders Recon. So, over the course of the lab, there will be situations in which you will have to use proper radio etiquette to explain what's going on. Because remember, 1, 2, 3, 4 is 200 meters, and you can't just turn to the cadet next to you if they're 200 meters away. So, I've set up an example here where the third squad leader can see the enemy, but the platoon leader cannot. So, we're going to have to use proper radio etiquette for the third squad leader to inform the PL of what's going on.
Whiskey 3-6, this is Whiskey 3-3. 2 enemy OP spotted out in the open. Recommend attack, over.
Whiskey 3-3, this is Whiskey 3-6. Roger, execute, out. And so with that, the third squad leader will then take her squad and conduct her squad attack. And the only reason why she knows how to do that is because the PL was talking to her and she was talking to the PL. So in addition to talking between the various members of your table, another thing that you guys are going to have to do is you're going to have to talk to hire. So in this situation, we've got the platoon in their ORP, and the platoon leader is then going to call up to hire to report the situation.
Whiskey 6, this is Whiskey 3-6. We've occupied the ORP and are standing by to continue the mission, over.
Whiskey 3-6, this is Whiskey 6. Roger, Charlie Mike, out.